everything you pretty much need to know about the valves on the TRX450Rs, CRF 250, 150, CRF 450R, and 450X, and the 06 and newer TRX450Rs, or TRX450ERs they're referred to. Of your quad or dirt bike or whatever needing valves done, most of the time, almost 90% of the time, it's your intake valves that wear out. The reason for on the dirt bikes and the newer TRX 450Rs is because they have titanium valves in them, and titanium up against a hardened seat, it wears out a lot quicker. So the symptoms are it won't start. You basically can only get it started if you pull start it. The reason is because the intake valves are sticking open a slight bit. You'll get times where you take your quad to like a mechanic or something like that, and they'll say you need valves, or you need to get your valves adjusted or whatever. And what that means is there's shims that go between your camshaft and your valve stems. If they say you need to get your valves replaced, that's because your valve seat is where the valve seals against the seat. The valve itself is worn out on the bell. And a lot of times you can get away with shimming them down, and then once they get to a 1.20, you can't shim them anymore after that, because that's the smallest shim that they make. And I've seen guys, I've done it too, where you actually take a piece of sandpaper, like a 320 grit and then 500, and you just sand the shim down. It takes a while, but it works. Not recommended, because if you go too thin of a shim, the reason they don't make them any thinner is because the shim can actually break. And when that shim breaks, it's a hardened steel, so it can break into pieces enough to actually destroy the end of your valve stem. It can knock the valve keepers out, and that can in turn cause your valve to drop into the engine, cause a catastrophic failure. It's just not good. And if you look right here, you have this little wing at top dead center. This little wing has a little bump on it that pushes the exhaust valves open at only top dead center. This is supposed to be adjusted to 11 thousandths, and then your exhaust rocker arms are supposed to be adjusted to 11 thousandths. That's for all the stock cams, hot cams, and the HRC cam. So what's going on there is you already have a little bit of compression being lost through your exhaust, and when you're trying to get started, you're pushing air back out to your carburetor, and that's the reason it won't start. So when you pull start it, this wing is spinning fast enough that it goes in, and then you get that little bit of compression back and a little bit faster airflow through the carburetor when it's being pull started, because the engine's spinning faster. I'll show you real quick what some worn out intake valves look like. I don't have a good intake valve. Anyways, you can see right there, see how sharp that edge of that valve is? And that's not what you want. You want, I'll compare it to, actually I do have a good intake valve right here. So if you look, you'll see where this one has a nice grind on the end of it, and it's a nice 45-degree angle, and this valve is in perfect shape. If you see this valve right here, this one has kind of a quarter of a circle edge on it, and that's where they wear out, is they wear out on the seats right there, because this is a softer metal than your valve seats are. A lot of times when you get your valve job done, you have to pull the head off, pull the valves and the valve springs and everything out, and then you have to get your valve seats cut most of the time. Not always, but most of the time you got to get them cut. And then with these valves, you're not supposed to lap them in. They're supposed to just have a fresh, complete seal, machine seal around the edges, and that's what makes their seal. But yeah, so that's what a worn out valve looks like. And a lot of people, for some reason, think that the valve stem is what stretches, and like I said, that's not what happens. All it is that little worn out in the edge of the valve. It makes the valve sit up higher in the seat. So anyways, guys, I hope that video helped you out understanding the TRX and CRF valve train, why they need valves adjusted so often, and why they wear out, and all that good stuff.